Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, we'll be doing our first harvest and adding new worms, so stay tuned. So today's a beautiful day out, but we're about to do something more beautiful. Before we begin, I'd like to thank this video's sponsor, Northeast Worms. They are an American-owned business in Rochester, New York. They specialize in selling various species of worms along with the byproducts of them. Their inventory is guaranteed to be high quality, and the owner prides himself with great customer service. If you're interested, check out the link in the description box below. Now back to the video. So as I promised a few weeks ago, following filling this composter up for the first time, I wanted to do a harvest after a few weeks just to let the castings compact themselves down a little bit. Now, there were a few design problems that I'll talk about in a second, and also some new things I want to do. But first, we're going to start off by harvesting the castings. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, all you have to do is remove the bung on top, and then you could turn the nut right below, and it'll turn the blade, and it'll harvest the castings. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and activate the dual camera setup. Another thing before I harvest this that I'd like to talk about is you might notice that there's some castings already in the bucket. So that's also another topic I'm going to cover later. However, these are European night crawlers, and they tend to go a little bit deeper compared to red wigglers. So in that case, the ones that exited from the bottom took some castings with them. Again, we'll cover that in just 1 second, but let's first go ahead and harvest our first batch of castings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ratcheting wrench with a 15mm socket at the end, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn this clockwise for 1 full rotation, or at least roughly that. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, that was better than I could have asked for. I do want to know one thing is yesterday I just decreased the water input here just so the castings would be a little bit on the dry side and a little bit easier to harvest. And from my previous video, you saw that it would take roughly 30-40 minutes to harvest the castings. And I'm going to go ahead and put a timer in post-editing just to show you how quick harvesting this was. So this makes this process so easy for just everyone. And you saw how absolutely clean the whole process was. There was no bending down. All you had to do was just turn the nut 1 full revolution, and that's it. Castings harvested. All right, now we're going to talk about the overall design problems. So the first one is mites. As I theorized correctly, these 3D printed grates on top did indeed stop the mites. However, whenever I opened the lid to add in more vegetable scraps and whatnot, obviously, some mites would get out. Now, if you're doing this on a porch or you're doing it like in your garage, that's not really a problem. However, I'm doing it right next to my computer desk, so allergens are a concern. All I did was simply just take a battery-powered cordless vacuum and just vacuum around the area. Problem solved. In the future, I might do like some sort of enclosure on the sides, or just simply put like a tray beneath the composter just to mitigate that problem. Now the next problem was worms escaping. Now this isn't as big of a problem as you think it is. So what was happening is when this bucket was completely empty, well, the casting collection bin, right? Some worms that would fall down below, they would have no dirt or cover there, so they would try to escape the sides. All I did to fix that was to add in some damp shredded newspaper in there while the casting bucket was empty, and they would just have somewhere to hide in the meanwhile until more castings drop down. In the future, whenever I empty the casting collection bucket, I would probably just leave a little bit of it in there just so any worms that drop down have somewhere to hide, as I mentioned before. Now the last thing I want to talk about is adding new worms. Why do I want to add new worms? Well, in the bucket, I have what's known as European night crawlers. Now European night crawlers are good for composting, but they do have a problem. They go down a little bit deeper than other worms. And while that isn't a huge problem in this setup, I do want more efficient method of composting. And so I'm going to stratify this bucket. So what do I mean by that? As I mentioned, European night crawlers, they go from the top of the soil all the way down to about 2 feet. So that's about the height of this bucket, hence why we have a few escape from the bottom. Not that many, but we have a few. Now, the worms that I'm adding in are known as Eisenia fetida, which is the Latin scientific name for red wigglers. Now, red wigglers are epigeic, meaning that they tend to stay on top of the soil. So effectively, what would happen is you're going to have a bunch of red wigglers at the top combined with European night crawlers, and then you're going to have European night crawlers all throughout the depth of the soil. So that means the entire depth of the soil will be composting the entire time. This will make it more effective, and as many experts will agree, combining worm species is really good because then you can help mitigate problems caused by temperature variance, barometric pressure variance, and of course moisture problems. And like I said, the biggest one is you'll have more effective composting. So we're going to take this bag of red wigglers that I got from my sponsor Northeast Worms, and we're going to add it in here. So as you can see here are some leftover scraps that I just put in yesterday. Now I have some spoiled rice, and I'm probably going to make another video as to what I feed them. Another thing is you probably can't see this on the camera, not high enough resolution, but you'll see a bunch of mites that hopped out. Again, not a big deal. All I had to do is just take a cordless vacuum and vacuum it up. However, I'm going to go ahead and add the new worms now. Now I want you to take a look at these red wigglers. Now, compared to European night crawlers, they're a lot smaller than get between 1 and 3 inches in size. However, they are quite strong, and they can eat up to 33% of their body weight in one day. So this is going to help the composting process a lot. And honestly, red wigglers, in my opinion, do quite a good job compared to European night crawlers. But again, the goal here is to stratify the composting bucket. Now that's the mother load right there. Now I'm happy to say that even in 90-degree weather, they arrived perfectly healthy, and as you can see, they're very, very lively. So that's great. Good on my sponsor, Northeast Worms. Now look at that, another mother load here. So you can see here that the bucket's pretty much filled to the brim. However, you know, this bedding that the worms came in is very loose. So as the days go by, it's going to compact itself down naturally. However, that being said, I probably won't add vegetables for probably a week or so just to let this go down. You definitely don't want to like compact this down really hard. You're going to have oxygen intake problems, and the worms will probably go anaerobic and die. By the way, anaerobic meaning lack of oxygen. So honestly, I'm ecstatic how this all turned out. After months of research and development, this turned out way better than I could have imagined. Obviously, there will be some problems which I'll address in the future regarding design. That wraps up this video. In future videos, I'll probably be showing you guys a 3D CAD model of a composter just to give you guys a more in-depth look at how this composter works. Also, I'll probably be doing other scientific experiments such as testing how plants react to the castings and having various things like control groups just to see how much benefit these castings can provide. I'll probably also be doing testing of the castings just to show microbe and nutrient levels to really back up my claims. If you like what you saw, please think about leaving a like and subscribing. And if you have any questions at all, please leave it in the comment section below. I'll see you guys next time.